Good evening, councillors. Apologies for my lateness of attendance. With the absence of Councillor Marnie as the chair of the Environment Planning Committee, we need to have a vote of the councillors present to make a decision on who will be the stand-in chair for the evening. Do I have anyone to nominate for that role?
I move that the mayor becomes the chair.
I appreciate that, Councillor Catras, but I've got to leave probably in about 15 minutes, so
More than
I'll move that Deputy Mayor Bork be the chair of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone that the councillors are in support of that nomination?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Do we need to vote on this? We do need to vote on this. Would you like to do that, Vicky? Hands up. Looks like it's unanimous. Congratulations, Deputy Mayor. You are the stand-in chair of the Environment Planning Committee for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. So, welcome to tonight's meeting of the Environment and Planning Committee. I declare the meeting open at 7:04 p.m. I will start with the acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. Apologies, I have an apology from Councillor Marnie. Are there any other apologies? No? Can I please have a motion to accept the apologies and grant a leave of absence? Councillor Lansbury has moved it and Councillor Jamieson has seconded that. All those in favour of the motion say aye. All those against? I declare it carried. There were no requests to attend via audio-visual link. So we'll go to the notice of live streaming. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available on Council's website. Code of Meeting Practice. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are to be left open unless the meeting moves into a closed confidential session, according to Section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into a closed confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. Disclosures of interest. Do any councillors have any disclosures of interest to declare? No. And there are no speakers in the public forum registered for tonight. So we move to the first item, which is the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting, ENV 022-24. Confirmation of the minutes of the Environment and Planning Committee held on the 13th of May 2024. It's been moved by Councillor Catras and seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Any questions, councillors, on the minutes? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against? I'll declare that carried. And we go to the one and only item on the agenda tonight, which is the committee report ENV 023-24, Development and Building Q3 Metrics Report. It's a report from the Manager, Development and Building, who is here with us tonight. So before I call for a mover and seconder, we'll just ask for a quick update on the report.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair. Essentially, this report is the report on the performance of the Development and Building Unit in terms of assessment of applications and certification. I'll run through the key figures and try to move it as quickly as we can. Essentially, through this quarter, we had 76 applications lodged. We had 129 determined. So within that period, we had 53 improvement overall in terms of our assessment numbers. In other words, we had 53 lefts at the end. Processing times were 127 days median, which continues a downward trend. We had, at the end of the quarter, 203 undetermined, which at that time was nearly a record for Georges River, but It has ticked up a little bit since, but at this quarter it was 203. In that quarter, $76 million worth of works were determined through the DA process at council. The local planning panel determined 9 of these and deferred 1. The Sydney South Planning Panel at the time had 2 active, but there were none determined in Q3. In terms of building information certificates, those are the ones that relate to unauthorised works or old buildings. There were 26 undetermined, 21 awaiting information, 36 awaiting lodgement. Impressively, the determination times in that team for building information certificates has gone down from 557 in 22-23 to 123. And I have to note that's a particularly credible effort by the then acting coordinator, now coordinator of our team, who's done an incredible job to turn that around. In terms of construction certificates, we have 19 under assessment, with 13 pre-DA applications for advice received and 13 completed. In terms of staff, in terms of general issues affecting the unit, staffing has been the ongoing one. We still are working to get senior planners and principal planners. We've in fact engaged a recruitment firm to try to seek some principal planners by actively seeking to recruit, simply because this has just been a real difficulty for a long time. So we're moving to that next step. We're advertising our senior planners at the moment, and that's the key vacancy. The bottom positions of the team are now all filled, which is positive. We now have people, the entire bottom of the team is made up of people who are Georges River Council employees. There is some recruitment to occur in the certification team, but that's largely due to the fact that we needed a coordinator to put into that place. I'd also like to note that the Metropolitan Assessment Relief Program that we entered into with the department during this quarter was extended for 6 months. Now we're in June, so that 6 months has essentially ended, but a great deal of work has been done on reviewing council's processes and procedures and making them as efficient as possible in terms of things, everything from lodgement of DAs, pre-lodgements right through to the full assessment. And much of that work is already in place. On top of that, the process helped us. The department assessed about 40 applications for us, about 30 of which have been determined, and about 10 of which are still with council. But we're working in that place. The key takeaway from all of this is that we remain on track to improve our performance overall in our outstanding DAs. Recruitment is a constant challenge, but we will continue to work through that as we go ahead. So nothing more from me, Chair.
Thank you for that update. There's recommendation. Councillors, I'll call for a mover and seconder, and then we can have any questions or discussion. Councillor Catras, you've moved that?
Yeah.
And Councillor Lansbury has seconded it.
Could I just ask a few questions?
Councillor Catras had a question, yes.
First of all, to the manager, through the chair. Look, you've done fairly well if you look at the graphs with regards to the last quarter. You've actually, anyway, I won't go to those, but you've done very well in trying to pull the ball back and trying to get. Just first question is, they've got the department has helped us and helping us for 6 months. You've asked for an extension. You got the extension. I think you only got 3 months. Would there be any value in you asking further extension? Because you've done fairly well. You are short-staffed, I know, and you can see.
For the manager?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Councillor, essentially the situation there is that the department's currently undergoing a significant internal review of its operations. So they've given us the extension they could give us. I don't believe we'll get a further one, because what they tend to do with these programs is they come in for a number of months. They do their almost like flying squad assistance, and then they move along. We, however, my assessment of it is that we actually are now in a position, what this program has done is it's moved us ahead in terms of where we would have been otherwise. And we are now in a position whereby we can move forward on our own 2 feet without necessarily having that assistance. Of course, we've got vacancies and we need to fill those vacancies, but I believe that we're in a position now where we don't have the tail of applications behind us that's dragging us back and taking all those resources up.
Yeah, a further question. The fact remains that you have vacancies. I know you filled it in the report. You've indicated you filled a couple of positions. I'm not sure. I think it's a senior development assessment officer that you're missing at the present moment. What else are you missing? Because you filled a couple of.
In our assessment team, we're missing 2 principal planners and a senior assessment planner. And that's that key issue at the top end of the team. and the top end of the team deal with the more complicated applications. The bottom end of the team deal with the volume. So the volume is now under control. It's more about top end of the team where the challenge remains. But as I say, that's why we're engaging in headhunters to sort of try to track down the right sort of candidates that we need.
Okay, the other question that I have, sorry to do this to you, but I do want to know. The issue with regards to plans, I've got it here, if you could just bear with me. The issue with regards to the building information certificates, I understand that you're getting a lot more. I also understand that some people are using building information certificates to allow an approval for illegal building works. Now, I've come across, don't ask me how, but I've come across the fact that what they're saying is, don't worry about it. We're going to build it. These are multimillionaires. That's $100,000 in court as a fine. So I can understand small things that could be dealt with in building information, like, you know, the fence is not the right height or something like that. But when we're talking about full-blown extra units, extra height, are we in this building information certificate, are we actually challenging them in court to demolish in any capacity, or are we just going ahead with that principle that I've heard? I'm not sure if it's from the Land and Environment Court, I'm not sure. If we were able to approve this in terms of the prescriptive requirements, like the floor space ratio height, do we then issue a building information without taking into consideration the impact that it has on the community at large? You will answer that too.
Through you, Chair, and Andrew, I might get your assistance at the back end of it in respect to demolition orders and enforcement. In respect to the manner in which we do a building information certificates, our main principle is, particularly where they relate to illegal works, is that we try to provide no advantage. That's the first principle. In other words, if we wouldn't have approved as a DA, we won't be issuing a BIC for it. That has been our approach, and we have gone to court on a number of matters in our area, building information certificates that have been challenged. Part of the reason that we've had a big turnaround, just to be clear for the council's benefit, is that we've actually focused on information quality, and rather than giving people endless time to get information for illegal works correct, which will hold up Andrew's team, Andrew's usual team, I should say, from taking the appropriate action, we've moved towards an approach whereby the onus is on the applicant to get the material right. And then the team is essentially assessing what they have in front of them. And if what they have in front of them isn't clear, isn't adequate, or isn't appropriate, it will be returned, it'll be refused. So I guess my point is that every building information certificate that's more than minor gets referred to the DA planners for a review of the planning controls and as to whether they would be approved as a DA. We also, for every BIC of that nature, we also charge both the DA fees and construction certificate fee equivalent, as well as a building information fee. So there are measures in place in those regards. In terms of enforcement, I think I'll hand that to you, Andrew.
Through you, Madam Chair. A couple of points I'd like to make in response to your questions. Liam's talking about reducing the time frame for assessment, which enables the compliance team to then commence their enforcement action, and whether that's through notices, orders, fines, or court action, that speeds up the process of ensuring that unauthorised works can be either regulated or demolished. And I don't want to. I know that James Vann gives an update on legal matters every month, and I don't really want to take his thunder on this, but we had a fairly celebrated case recently in Oakley where a particular person got consent, did the right thing. That was the first thing they did right, probably the only thing they did right. They got consent. They then managed to build not in accordance with that consent. They also built on land that wasn't their land, having to be Crown land. Did a whole range of modifications to this particular structure and made it into what was supposed to be a boat shed into a habitable room. placed it on Airbnb and made a big song and dance about it. We managed to take them to the local court in Sutherland, and we got a fine of $30,000 for development not in accordance with consent, $30,000 for development without consent, and a further $10,000 fine, which I can't remember what was for, but the total ended up being $70,000 in fines plus about $2,000 in costs. So it's a significant deterrent. This wasn't a major developer. We're going through that process of forcing them to demolish it now. It's a separate matter. But I guess the point there will be is that we will be doing some publicity on that one. Spoken to the general manager about making that happen. He's supporting us to go through that process. So that deterrent value is out there for the community to say that you can't get a DA and then do what you like and think you're going to get away with it. So I think that's a very significant deterrent. And I think in this case, the courts have supported us, which in a lot of cases they don't. So that's a very good outcome. And I think that will support a lot of the messaging around building information certificates being a de facto DA retrospectively. As Liam said, if it can't be approved for a range of reasons, then it won't be approved and there'll be consequences for doing it in the first place.
If you could just turn your microphone off.
You said that you're still recruiting staff. In your operational budget, do you have enough money to even find that staff to pay for them, or does the budget have to address the issue?
Through you, Chair. We have enough money to pay the staff. They've been on structure for a long time. They've been vacant for a long time, so we do have the money. The issue is primarily one of just getting the right people and the right standard of staff into the door to make sure that they can do those jobs at the standard that we need. I want to be clear that as well, just when saying that, we are being selective, but we're not being excessively so. It's simply the case that we need to get the right people in these critical roles because essentially the two principal planners, their main role is to be backups to the coordinators in terms of a whole range of things, but also to assist the legal team in running court cases from expert and that side of things, and then dealing with major applications in the city. So they are critical positions. We need people with the right experience and the right skill set. It has been a challenge to find them, but we believe that taking this new approach of trying to identify people and contact them and try to convince them to join council through recruitment agencies hopefully will bring more success than the process that we followed today.
Thank you.
Councillors, are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Wayne.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. First, congratulations on the team for making inroads into the backlog, which is a big difference comparing with what's like a year ago. So my question, I have two questions. First is comparing with our neighboring councils, how are we performing? Benchmark, backlog, average time to approve.
Through you, Chair. Compared to our neighbouring councils, we are going okay. We are probably more consistent with them certainly than we were 12 months ago.
Yes.
We still have improvement, as we know, but we are more consistent. Certainly, I know that Sutherland have had a new management team come in and a new approach taken, but we're still tracking it reasonably well with them. Canterbury Bankstown are a massive and different council. It's a bit of a difficult comparison. I understand Bayside Council has had reasonable performance, but they are starting to have significant recruiting issues as well. So that will affect their assessment times going forward.
Okay.
So we're okay in terms of where we are in class, but we do have improvement.
Okay, so a year ago, so I asked for a report for comparing. Can I ask another one? So just make the give the public the confidence. So I just raised a question with notice. So the other question, second question, probably is more important. Is the so in light of upcoming housing reform, and do you expect a ramp up or even tsunami of incoming DA, and what's our policy, our plan to get ready you say in the next half a year or year or two? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, we've always got to be prepared in assessment for a ramp up at any time because fundamentally what drives our work is market conditions. I'm not sure necessarily that the changes the department will bring, the impact of them will be unclear. It'll largely be dependent upon the economic environment. That's going to be the first driver. The fact that you can do additional things, yes, it will result in additional DAs, but it won't necessarily do that if the economy remains where it is. So what we need to do is, as we've always had, we've always got to have an ability to, first of all, we want to fill the positions we have. We want to get the backlog as low as possible as we can. They're the two first things, which is what we're working on. And the third thing is we also have to be available to and open to bringing on temporary staff, even where we need to support a surge. But yes, I accept the point. It's always a constant thing at the back of a development assessment manager's mind is that the market conditions will change and will be caught out. So we're mindful of that.
Okay, so just a follow-up question. So with the state's housing reform, is any grant, available for the council to, to apply for the processing of the increased volume of workload for DA?
Through you, Madam Chair. Not at this stage that we're aware of. They were doing some grants around the technology space, but the products they had that were available weren't suitable for what we need right now. But in terms of actual things like the Metropolitan Assessment Relief Program that we've just been part of, there's, as far as I'm aware, there's nothing further at the moment, but that doesn't mean that won't change in the future.
Okay, cool. Oh, thank you. So I just put this in writing with question with notice, so you can have it replied, make it public. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. So we've got a mover, Councillor Catras, seconded by Councillor Lansbury. Any other questions, councillors? If not, we'll put the motion and we'll get the staff to go around the table.
Your vote, please, Madam Chair.
For.
Councillor Amby Haberhahn. For. Councillor Jamieson. For. Councillor Catras.
For.
Councillor Lansbury. For. Councillor Wang.
For.
6 votes for, unanimous.
Declare the motion carried. And there being no other business on the agenda, I declare the meeting closed at 7:25 p.m. Thank you, councillors.